I'm Skye. I'm a creative director and a photographer from Birmingham, and I have a modelling agency and a photography studio. So after school, I went straight to college. I studied at Solihull, and I studied fine art and photography. I studied fine art because I've always been a creative, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do, so I studied fine art and photography to test the waters with photography. I didn't have no background in it or anything like that, and luckily I really liked it, so I went on to do a fashion photography course. And when I was doing it, I used to work with different models and just always put them forward to the same kind of people when I seen jobs come up and whatnot. And it's always been something that I kind of was interested in, just because I feel like growing up there wasn't really a lot of representation within the modelling field. So I've always had interest in it, but I didn't really know where to start. So that's kind of how I got into photography and the modelling agency. So in college, obviously, when I started to kind of put out photos and put a portfolio out there, people would start to ask me can I book you? And my photography teacher always says to me don't turn down any work, and that's something that now I somewhat agree with, but I also kind of disagree with. But at the time, I think it was definitely good advice. So I would take on any work. I was kind of doing events for £50 for the whole night, so it was £10 an hour or something ridiculous like that, or family portraits, shoots for brands, and it would be maybe £100 for a whole commercial shoot or something like that. So I was taking on anything. I was working with any budget kind of thing, and obviously that helped me to develop a portfolio, but also a network of clients and that communication with them. So I feel portfolios are something that comes up every day, even with the modelling agency, with my photography, with art direction. It doesn't stop. You don't stop developing your portfolio. It doesn't matter where you are. You can always get better, and you can always put different things in your portfolio. So to me, my portfolio was number one goal. I wanted to have a branch of different creative pieces that I could show to people, and I also wanted them to see that and think, okay, you're worth the money that you're asking for. It's so important to develop the kind of network and the communication and the people that you kind of know in the industry. I feel it only takes you to know the right one person for them to kind of put you forward to something or to recommend you. And it's also a case where I've went to work with a few people, but if I don't really get the vibe, I will ask other people, have you worked, if I know they've worked with them, how was it with them? So if they're giving me bad feedback, I'm going to take that into consideration. I will always judge people on the way I meet them and I work with them, but there's certain people in the industry that I respect and I will always kind of go to for that advice. So I think it's so important to create that kind of network of people. And again, that's something that kind of never ends. I think for me, I'm not the most outgoing person, so it was always hard for me to kind of go to a networking event and actually talk to people. I'd go there and I'd just stand there I'm not actually doing anything. Whereas now I will push myself to make sure I'm speaking to the right people. I'm actually trying to get the name out there more. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So for example, Fashion Week, there was a creative that I know that was doing the Fashion Week, and the designer needed more models, so they come to me straight away and was we need more models for this. Or there's times in with my fashion photography that people will be I already work with the person, and then they'll recommend it to somebody that's kind of come out to them and said, look, I want to start a business, how do I do it, who do you work with, or whatnot. So there's different ways in that kind of space. But then also I still do portraits and family photo shoots. I still do them just because I enjoy doing them. I think the fashion industry is very fast-paced, whereas when I do a kid's portrait or a family portrait, it's chill, it's a nice vibe. You know that you're making someone real happy. Yeah, I think when I was in college and I was studying photography, although I knew I wanted to do photography, I didn't know what kind of photography, I didn't know what style. I was lost. I was very lost. So I knew that I wanted to work with people, I knew that I wanted to work with models, and I knew that I wanted to kind of try and make a change within the industry and within the community, but I didn't really know how. So with me, if I worked with a model and I recommended them to a client or however it kind of was, I always did that. So for me, it was it made sense, and it wasn't a case that I just jumped into it. I did a bit of research about it, I spoke to people. To be honest, when when I was thinking about starting the agency, I also spoke to a lot of people about them getting involved with it, because I was scared to do it alone. I thought like it's gonna be hard work. Like I was so scared. So like I asked other people, and they was kind of like, yeah, like I want to get involved, but nobody was really serious. So I was kind of waiting around for probably about 4 to 6 months, and then I thought, do you know what? I'm just gonna do it. And to be fair, I'm glad that I did do it alone, because although I did it alone, now I've got the right people like around me and like helping me and whatnot. Yeah, I think the first thing is obviously like invest in yourself, and that doesn't need to be an excessive amount of money, but it might be the case that you invest in your time, or you know, you do like get new equipment or whatever. But you got to get your basics, and then once you got your basics, try and get a vision for how you want your portfolio to look and how you want people to see you, what kind of clients you want. And then once you get that, once you know that vision, reach out to them kind of clients, because it's not going to be a case that you start photography, you start your page, and people are like, can I book you? You haven't got nothing yet. So you need to show them why they need to book you and why you want them to book you. So for me, for the agency, it's just literally about pushing the name, getting it out there. I think the one thing for me is I don't want the agency to become like a disposable agency. So when we take models on, we always give them like a probation period. In that time, if we're giving them advice and putting these workshops on and telling them to test with certain photographers and they're not doing it, that's when we can't hold them models. We don't want to keep models for no reason if they're not developing. But once they're kind of past that developing stage, we don't use models as a disposable kind of thing. So for me, it's really important that we keep that community, but we still expand and we still grow. So obviously when we started out, we had 5 models, then we had like 20. At the moment, we've got like around 100. And I want to keep developing, keep growing the agency, but still like keeping the identity that, wait, that don't make sense. Keeping the identity that we had when we started, if that makes sense. So that's really important. We're gonna kind of like expand in terms of spaces as well. I want to make sure we like keep growing. So when we get a bigger space, it's gonna be a bigger space, a better space, kind of more facilities here. And then in terms of photography, as I said, like for me, it's going back to square one. I want to kind of re-amp my portfolio, because when I started and I did my portfolio, that's not me no more. And then I kind of got stuck in the doing paid work and not being able to post it because it wasn't really my style. So kind of going back and just making sure that I am making the time for the creative shoots that aren't necessarily paid, but to me they're more rewarding sometimes. So yeah, like rejigging my portfolio, growing the agency, expanding this space, and yeah. It's important to realise that you don't need to come from something to become something. So it doesn't matter if you didn't come from money, or you didn't come from a wealthy background, or like a good home, or whatever it is. You can be anything that you want to be. It's just about putting your mind to it and being dedicated. Nobody but you're your biggest enemy. So if you tell yourself, I can't do this, I'm not going to be able to do this, you're not going to be able to do it. If you tell yourself, I'm going to be this person, you will be this person. And that's important, man.